There's a gardening secret that flips the script on everything we've been told about composting. Instead of chasing after endless compost piles, turning heaps until your back aches, and waiting months on end for results, there's a faster, simpler, and lazier way that actually delivers rich, dark humus in record time. I discovered this trick by accident when I grew tired of the traditional process, and what happened next changed my soil forever. Traditional composting demands patience, labor, and constant monitoring. You've got to pile, turn, balance green and brown materials, keep the moisture right, and wait months before anything usable appears. But here's the thing, nature doesn't work that way in the forest. Leaves fall, moisture seeps in, microbes and fungi get to work, and within weeks the forest floor is filled with humus that supports an entire ecosystem. That natural model inspired me to try a different approach, one that doesn't involve chasing compost piles. And what I found was a lazy but incredibly effective method fermentation-based soil building. Why fermentation beats chasing compost piles? When you compost the traditional way, you're relying on aerobic decomposition. This requires oxygen, heat, and constant turning to prevent rotting and foul odors. It works, but it's slow and labor-intensive. Fermentation, on the other hand, is a controlled breakdown that uses specialized microbes to pre-digest organic matter without the need for constant flipping or waiting for piles to heat up. Think of it as giving your soil a ready-made meal instead of forcing it to cook raw ingredients. The process creates humus-building compounds much faster, feeds beneficial soil life, and locks in nutrients that are often lost through evaporation or leaching in a traditional pile. The lazy trick, step by step. Here's exactly how I stopped chasing compost piles and started making humus faster than I ever thought possible. First, you'll need kitchen scraps, garden waste, or plant residues. Instead of tossing them on a heap, collect them in a bucket. Chop them into smaller pieces if possible, because this gives microbes more surface area to work on. Second, prepare a microbial starter. The easiest and most powerful one you can make is often called a fermented plant juice or microbe-rich serum. It sounds complex, but it's surprisingly simple to put together. Take a handful of leafy greens, weeds, or vegetable scraps, add 2 tablespoons of brown sugar and place them in a jar with 1 liter of water. Leave the jar slightly open so gases can escape and let it sit for 5 to 7 days. You'll notice a pleasant, sour smell. That's the sign beneficial microbes are thriving. Once your starter is ready, you can use it to ferment your kitchen and garden waste. Put your chopped waste in a bucket or container with a tight lid, sprinkle a handful of soil over it, and then add 1 cup of your microbial starter diluted in 1 liter of water. Press the materials down to remove excess air, then cover tightly. The soil layer on top traps odor and provides extra microbes to speed the process. Leave the bucket sealed for about 2 weeks. During this time, the microbes break down the material without producing foul smells. Instead of rotting, your scraps will ferment, creating a pre-digested material that looks partly broken down and smells sweetly sour. This is not yet finished humus, but here's the magic. When you add this fermented mix directly to your soil, the breakdown completes rapidly underground, giving you humus in a fraction of the time. Exact formula that works every time. For each kilogram of kitchen or garden waste, add 1 handful of soil. 1 cup, about 250 milliliters, of microbial starter diluted in 1 liter of water. 2 tablespoons of brown sugar mixed into the dilution to feed microbes further. So just mix well and seal. This ratio ensures fermentation happens quickly and without foul odors. Now, why does this work so fast in the soil? Well, when you bury or mix fermented organic matter into your garden beds, you're creating a microbe explosion underground. The pre-digested state of the waste means microbes don't need months to break it down. Instead, they finish the job within weeks, building stable humus right in your planting zone. Plants benefit immediately from the flush of nutrients, and the soil structure improves dramatically because humus acts like a sponge, holding both water and air while keeping nutrients available for roots. In my own garden, I noticed a difference in just one season. Soil that was once hard and crusty became loose and dark. Worms multiplied, plants grew sturdier, and honestly, I didn't have to worry about hauling compost piles across the yard. Everything happened in place with minimal effort. No turning, no chasing, no waiting. The beauty of this method is that it doesn't require the exhausting turning of piles or balancing of carbon to nitrogen ratios. The fermentation process takes care of balance on its own, locking nitrogen in organic form instead of letting it escape as ammonia. What you get is a nutrient-dense, microbe-rich amendment that is, well, miles ahead of traditional compost in speed and efficiency. Common mistakes and how to avoid them. You know, the only real missteps beginners tend to make with this method are overwatering or leaving the container too exposed. If your bucket is soaking wet, well, fermentation slows down and you risk those unpleasant odors. Stick to the dilution ratio given above, and you'll be just fine. Always remember to keep the lid on during fermentation, and don't forget to add that soil layer on top. It acts like a natural filter. Now here's another tip for you folks. Don't overpack the container. Leave a small gap at the top for gases to accumulate. This little trick prevents pressure buildup and ensures smooth fermentation. Let's talk about the results you can expect. After just 2 weeks of fermentation and then 2 to 3 weeks in the soil, you'll start to see some dramatic changes. The material will transform into a rich, crumbly humus that's just teeming with life. Your plants will respond with greener leaves, stronger roots, and better resistance to pests and drought. Plus, the humus improves long-term soil fertility, which means every time you use this method, you're compounding benefits for the future. Now, in contrast, a compost pile might take 3 to 6 months before you can use it, and by then, you've lost a lot of nutrients to evaporation or rainwater leaching. With fermentation, those nutrients are preserved and delivered directly to your soil in a bioavailable form. Why lazy gardening can be smarter gardening. Some gardeners think being lazy means neglect, but in reality, it can mean working smarter. By mimicking natural processes instead of forcing them, you save time, energy, and resources while achieving better results. This lazy trick is proof that shortcuts aren't always compromises. They can be breakthroughs. So the takeaway here is simple. You don't need to chase compost piles anymore. With this lazy but powerful fermentation method, you can create humus faster, keep your nutrients locked in, and transform your soil in weeks instead of months. The process is simple. The formula is reliable and the results are, well, undeniable. If you're ready to stop working against nature and start working with it, try this lazy trick in your own garden. You'll be amazed at how quickly your soil responds, and how much easier gardening becomes when you stop fighting piles and start feeding microbes the right way. And if you found this guide helpful, don't forget to subscribe to Growth Hub Central Crops and share this with a fellow gardener who's tired of chasing compost piles. Together, let's spread the word about smarter, easier, and faster ways to grow.